Marine mammals are the only other species that have menopause in them, with the exception of humans.
Killer whales, right?
Well, they're porpoises, yeah, but whales, the orcas, yeah, whales, elephant seals, etc., which is areas that we worked on. Some of it, we were doing more of this sort of less glamorous stuff. We have actually, the two co-founders of the company have actually saved a whale, and we actually saved the Minke whale when we were students. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was in the London
Cool.
Times. Yeah, it was quite fun. So the thing is that we discovered that there was that knowledge that I'd had in the back of my head that was about menopause, and it was all about the marine mammal stuff. And I'd never thought about it again. Parked it to the side, 10 years of doing something else. And I then was presented with a lovely baby girl a few years ago, which was very unexpected. And 8 years ago now, yeah, very unexpected, but fantastic. But I was not, should we say, in a financial situation to go, hey, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Another mouth to feed.
Yeah, like
that's what.
And then I ended up doing some sort of day work whilst I was deciding what to do. I was living in Asia at the time, and I met a few biologists purely by chance because my wife's family are marine biologists. So they were talking about the fact that a number of their members of the family or friends had PCOS and premature ovarian failure, and there was an issue with that. And they were worrying about.
No, that's PCOS, or PCOS is polycystic ovarian
syndrome, and POF is premature ovarian failure. Sorry, I crunched those together.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if they mean both of them or one of them.
They mentioned one, but they always come together.
Yeah, premature ovarian failure. Yeah, that's serious.
And they were then talking about the fact that this was. And I always confuse how Zephyr said it, but they were always talking about the fact that they thought it was one kind of system, one reason, which was to do with biology, and this is because they're from this racial group, or so on and so forth. And then I sort of remembered what we did with marine mammals, and why do we have menopause in these 5 species? Interestingly enough, humans also hair grow as if they were going through the water, whereas other primates don't. So we have a marine link that other primates don't. But unlike most of the rest of the people speaking there, I hadn't spent years in the lab and just working, trying to keep my head above water. But that gives you a different perspective, is what I mean. A very different perspective of how to apply your knowledge. And we're like, well, wait a minute, it should be looking at not trying to change, just adding, shall we say, estrogen to your system to reboost yourself. It's the underlying cause that matters. That would be far more effective. And then you say, well, why do we have this cause? Why do we need estrogen? Why do we need progesterone? Why do we need testosterone? What is the reasons? Why do women have menstrual cycle, menstrual cycle every 28 days? I mean, what's the point of that? Why do they lose it? It doesn't make sense. Or does it make sense? So what we thought is the things that make us men and women, when we start off as babies, we're little blobs, and we have little bits that are slightly different, and then we differentiate into, men get sort of deep voices and muscles and testicles, and women get hips and breasts and hands on, and then they get to a certain age, and then they spread their meiotic reproduction, they spread their genes across. And so there's this sweet spot of, you could argue, where you're at your prime, right? But you're not at one point in your prime. So where are you? At what point in your life are you the most intelligent? People say, oh, it's when you're 21. That's when you're the brightest you can be, and that's why all these great geniuses come up with it. Well, so let's just take Newton, for instance. He came up with gravity and all that stuff. Well, when he was about 20, 18, maybe. No, he didn't. He came up with an initial concept that he then took 25 years to actually put together. So, in other words, the knowledge that you have at 21 isn't necessarily, why are you necessarily more intelligent at that point than you are when you're 41 or 51? Because if you've kept your faculties together and the ability to, you then have years of knowledge and how you can apply that. So this concept of where is your peak, I think, is everyone's so quick to define your areas. This is where you should be. Whereas we're saying, wait a minute, you have a period of fertility, and during that period of fertility, you are at any point within your peak. So, in other words, you say you could be the best athletes, let's say, in their speed in their 20s, but the best athletes for strength are generally in their 30s. Sometimes even things like arm wrestling, they can be in their 50s. And they're winning it. And they're like, wait a minute, why are you actually stronger in your 50s than you are in your 30s? What? But it doesn't make sense. And then you sort of realize that it's not just this one one slice of this sort of monolith, this one monolith, that everything comes from this angle, that this is what you must be, this is your speed at this area, and you must be at that level. So the one area of human development that we noticed about this was the sexual function and reproduction. So that very clearly there is a point where aging tends to speed up, and that the clearest rate determining step is with women is menopause. Now, everyone's slightly different. I understand it. Not everyone's the same, but statistically, let's just keep the whole hot hand in water, boiling and freezing one together. We only have 3 years of data, so we don't have enough data to give you full, hey, I can give you a whole lifespan here, and this is what happened over, this person lived an extra 10 years, and this person's had this quality of life. But what we have noticed is as follows: increased energy, muscle tone, skin elasticity, hair thickness, focus. So all of the key points that go through, we classify as aging in both men and women. All of them have improvements. Now, different variables and different levels. The big one, I suppose, is estrogen. We can have a 60% increase in estrogen.
Our own natural estrogen. Are you looking at women in their 40s and they're still kind of cycling or perimenopause, and then it comes back? What does that mean?
Right. Okay. This was careful on what I say here. Okay. So there are two types, right? So we work with perimenopausal women in their late 40s in that area. That's the area that seems to be we can work with. That we're scientists, we're not gods, right? We have limitations what we can do, and so we can't bring back someone who's 85 and bring them all the way back. It's just not going to work. But if someone is before the point of no return, where we have to restructure the whole system, we can maybe delay it a little bit, or maybe just improve it a little bit. And that will have an extra couple of years in down the road, maybe another couple of years of extra quality of life. I don't know about you, but I'd take that. I'd take 5 years of vitality and overall. So we've taken this principle, which is just take telomeres, say, for instance, which is 125 years before the cellular structure breaks down. Just keep it really simple. Okay, let's take off 10% for bad behavior, right? So then we have 110, right? 112. Let's see how we can keep, what is your, when we talked about the whole concept of aging, well, where are you? If you're 40 or 50 and you're healthy and fit, do a hell of a lot that you can do when you were 20, and you don't have the drama and all that stuff that comes with it. And that means that if I could keep that version of me together, that version can then extend into old age. So that's our principle. It's a long answering question to what you're saying. So we're looking at increased levels of estrogen, decreased levels of tiredness. And again, marking these or monitoring these are very difficult to do because it's a very labor-intensive process with each patient or candidate, which we'll come to later on. But each person reacts differently. So some people react with regard to they have inflammation in their joints or loss of muscle mass. So you'll see their muscles start to go. But what we found mostly is improved energy levels, better hair, more supple skin, but very marginally. It's not like it suddenly goes back 20 years or 30 years. It depends on the person as well. And the other one is the hormone balances start to increase at better levels of estrogen, lower FSH.
What about bone density? Like, are you noticing less osteoporosis? I mean, or a reversal, maybe osteoporosis or osteopenia with some of these ladies?
We don't have the results of that yet. We've taken the pre-bone density scans. We've done the procedure, and then we're going to take the post-density scans 6 to 8 months afterwards. And that's what we're doing. We're giving it an amount of time because bones take quite a long time to have a difference. So we thought we'd give it time. Things like hormones happen almost within days. And so this is the thing. It's a layered approach of all the different areas that you can have. But yeah, bone density is one of the areas that we market.